1.3 Many Points of View. Every share of Berkshire that I own is destined to go to philanthropies, and I want society to reap the maximum good from these gifts and bequests. Warren Buffett, when aged 75 years. We are all people. We will all have a purpose in wishing to understand and engage with the economic and business realities of a firm. As we study financial statement analysis together, we will focus on the use of financial statements by both existing and prospective equity investors who wish to decide whether to invest or divest their capital in a firm. Many perspectives and stakeholders. There are many people with different perspectives and reasons for wishing to analyse a firm's financial statements. We may wish to assess a firm's credit risk if we are considering making a debt investment in a firm. We may be a supplier to a firm, wishing to understand the relative bargaining power a firm has in its negotiations with us on the prices of the goods and services we supply to it. We may be a customer of a firm, wanting to understand how secure is the supply of the goods and services we are buying from it. We may be an employee, wanting to understand whether the equity investors and employees of a firm are fairly sharing in the value created by the firm's activities to which we are contributing. Or we may be working in a government agency, wishing to understand whether aspects of a firm's activities are unfair to others and need to be regulated for the broader community benefit. Depending on our purpose, we would have different perspectives and different reasons for looking at the financial statements to better understand the realities of firms. Alternatively, we may be a senior manager or director of a company and may need to decide whether to invest resources within a business. For example, we may need to assess a proposal to build a new factory at Fairfield in the outer western suburbs of Sydney, or to restructure a firm's distribution by centralising its warehousing operations in East Tamaki in Auckland, or to acquire another business and bolt it on to the existing business, as for example Commonwealth Bank in Australia did when it purchased ASB Bank in New Zealand in the late 1980s. Or to outsource manufacturing to Shenzhen in Guangdong province in China, or to assess the merits of a marketing strategy that involves paying a multi-million-dollar sum for endorsements from, say, the Australian cricket player Michael Clarke or the New Zealand golfer Lydia Ko. Or to introduce a new human resources policy around increased flexibility in working hours for certain groups of employees. Or to decide whether to simply maintain the status quo in some aspect of the business in the face of other competitors doing that aspect of the business quite differently. In all these instances, as a senior manager or director in a firm, what do we ask ourselves? We need to assess which course of action will add the most value for equity investors and to other stakeholders in a firm. How can we tell? How do we know if we are adding value by going ahead with any of these proposals? The way of identifying and thinking about aspects of the economic and business realities of firms that you can gain from studying financial statement analysis can be used in a range of situations in which we may find ourselves. We may look at the financial statements of firms from many different perspectives at different times in our lives and working careers. We may find ourselves working as a corporate investigator in a large open plan office with the Australian regulator, Australian Securities and Investments Commission, ACCT, or working as an analyst in the Auckland head office of Fonterra, a large multinational dairy company owned by 10,500 New Zealand dairy farmers, assessing the merits of a major capital investment proposal from a senior manager. How do we view the world we're in? How do we see it? How do we engage with it? The knowledge and skills we will study will be in the context of existing and prospective equity investors using financial statements to make decisions about whether to invest or divest their capital in the equity of a firm. However, they will also be directly relevant and useful in other decision contexts. We will limit ourselves to the decisions by equity investors for focus. The risk of doing this is that we might tend to forget about the interests of other stakeholders of a firm. Going jogging after work at the end of the day might be a good thing. It could help my physical fitness and help me clear my head. However, if I get so focused on running and exercising that I do so many hours of running every day that I neglect other aspects of my life, such as my relationships with my wife, family, friends and parents, washing the car, cooking dinner or going to work, then jogging may not be so good. In the same way, our focus on decisions to be made by equity investors in a firm can lead us to neglect other perspectives. Financial statement analysis is for everyone, and a firm's activities serve the needs of many more people, many more stakeholders than simply equity investors. Financial statement analysis is about knowing what adds value for a wide range of stakeholders in a wide range of situations. A way of thinking, of viewing the world, we can use in many different situations. We are not going soft in the head to be sensitive to and consider the genuine interests of stakeholders other than equity investors in a business. Quite the reverse. However, that will not be our focus. Equity investors' interests are not everything. All I ask is that we keep in mind that our focus on adding value to equity investors is only part of the story, never the whole story. Indeed, as William Shakespeare's character Hamlet says to his friend Horatio, "There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy." As we delve into the exciting and compelling world of financial statement analysis and discover what we can learn about the realities of a firm from its financial statements, keep in mind it is possible to look at these realities from many other points of view than those of equity investors. The knowledge and skills we learn in the context of examining the financial statements from the point of view of equity investors can be readily adapted and used to analyse a firm from the points of view of other stakeholders. We may well find ourselves in future needing to do just that. We will now turn our attention to the sort of technical skills and judgments we will need to develop to be able to complete a quality analysis of a firm's financial statements. 1.4. What it takes. A man who tries to carry a cat home by its tail will learn a lesson that can be learned in no other way. Mark Twain. In this section, we will look at what it might take to gain fresh insights of a firm's business realities from its financial statements. We will see we need to focus on a firm's key economic and business drivers and on how these might change in the future. Financial statement analysis requires a mixture of technical skills, which we can learn in a classroom by reading the materials in this study guide and by carefully applying these concepts to our firms, and judgments, which take time and experience to develop. This study guide can give you some theoretical tips and ideas to take with you, a platform or base, if you like, on which you can build your own capacity to make sound judgments and develop a nose or ability to use financial statements to connect meaningfully to the economic and business realities of firms. We will see that the quality of the judgments we make in forecasting are critical to financial statement analysis, as is our ability to turn these judgments meaningfully into dollar figures of value. We will use the discounted cash flow and economic profit frameworks to turn our forecasts into valuations. But beware, Valuation models such as the ones we will use incorporate guesses to varying degrees for a number of their components. For example, we will see the long-term expectations summarized by a growth rate and the discount rates used to bring future dollars into present dollars are both extremely difficult to quantify and inevitably contain a high degree of speculation and can be prone to manipulation by us or by others. Our valuation models will involve us using a spreadsheet and will enable us to arrive at precise values, which can fool us into thinking they give us more accuracy than is the case. It can be useful to remember that the only thing certain about any forecast we make is that it will be proved wrong. Forecasting is highly imprecise, particularly the more years we go out into the future. Also, no one has yet figured out how to effectively translate into discount rates judgments in relation to risk. A common model from finance used to generate discount rates, the Capital Asset Pricing Model, CAPM, can be readily manipulated depending on the beta estimates and market risk premium used in calculating the discount rate. More guesses. As Benjamin Graham has pointed out, the combination of precise formulas with highly imprecise assumptions can be used to establish or rather justify practically any value for a firm one wishes. Self-delusion in financial statement analysis and valuation is a constant risk. The false precision that valuation models such as the discounted cash flow and economic profit frameworks apparently provide can easily disguise manipulation and bias by those using these frameworks. The most worrying thing is the self-delusion that their apparent precision can provide. We can easily use such a framework to convince ourselves that we know more than we do. We can introduce considerable speculation through the guesses and opinions about the future included in some inputs of our model. If it is so fraught with dangers, why do we suggest we develop skills in using valuation models? Well, they can help us focus our efforts, be efficient in our analysis, and then help us make sense of what we find. They are primarily frameworks or conceptual maps or ways of thinking. They are not machines that produce the right value for a firm, however much we may wish this was the case. Background in accounting or finance. You may or may not have an accounting or finance background, and I have a background in both. In my view, it does not really matter either way. An accounting or finance background can be a help and a hindrance in financial statement analysis. An understanding of some types of typical accounting treatments can help to decipher some of the detail in financial statements and help us to be less intimidated by, or indeed even less fearful of some of the accounting terms. A background in finance can help us understand some concepts more easily, such as cost of capital, risk, and net present values. But a background in accounting or finance can also hinder us. An accounting background may mean we look at the world in accounting silos, or with preconceived notions that may make it more difficult for us to see the underlying realities of firms that we are trying to come to grips with. We may be more readily blinded by the accounts and less able to see through them to what we are interested in. Indeed, an accounting background can sometimes encourage us to focus on the financial statements themselves, which are simply made up by people, rather than on business reality, which is what we are interested in. An accounting background can sometimes make us feel that the accounts are what are rigorous and real, and make it more difficult for us to see the messy, untidy, and sometimes uncomfortable realities of firms. The financial statements, through analysis, are merely a means by by which we seek to connect to this business reality. They are not the reality themselves. A background in finance can encourage us to be committed to the various notions of efficient markets, which is a fundamental tenet of accepted finance theory, after all, which might make it more difficult for us to see the benefit of expending considerable effort ourselves analysing publicly available financial statements to uncover value that may not be reflected in the share price of a listed firm. After all, if the listed share markets are efficient, why not just accept the market price as the best estimate of value? Indeed, those without a strong background in accounting or finance can sometimes find it easier to approach financial statement analysis in a fresher, more open way, with a real focus on using financial statement analysis to better understand the realities of firms. Useful practical skills. Our unit seeks to assist us to gain useful practical skills in analysing the financial statements of firms. We will use Ryman Healthcare as a key case study. Ryman Healthcare is a major New Zealand listed company operating in the retirement healthcare sector in New Zealand and Australia. By reading, studying and applying what is in this study guide, we can become more confident and assured, or at least more comfortable, with analysing financial statements and using our analysis to make judgments about real business situations. This will help prepare us in the future to be able to back our judgments by investing real dollars, our own or someone else's, in a business or project, to give us the confidence to make commitments of capital and wealth in support of firms' uncertain futures. We can also understand the contribution we could make to our whole community, and not just to ourselves, by becoming truly skillful at allocating scarce capital in our society. There is a definite psychological issue in business and investing, just as there is, for example, in sport. We need to stay calm and keep our head when all those around us may be losing theirs. We need to keep our nerve and focus and confidence at critical moments, but not slip into arrogance and overconfidence, which is all too easy to do as well. A key help in being able to walk this tightrope is to have a rock, a foundation, a solid base. We occasionally meet people in life who have a solid foundation, and this can give them a tremendous inner strength and resilience, come what may. It is the same in business and investing. Having a clear sense of what adds value in business can give us the calm confidence to follow through on our assessments, particularly at critical moments in capital markets. The material covered in this study guide is designed to get us started in developing such a foundation in financial statement analysis, which can give us the basis for an intelligent, realistic, calm confidence in business and investing. Focus on drivers. To help us build such a foundation, we need to focus on drivers, not passengers. We need to systematically and efficiently identify and assess the past drivers of a firm's performance. To do this requires us to identify the past economic and business realities of a firm which are driving its performance. What is the difference between a driver and a passenger in a car? The driver is steering, braking and accelerating the car by using the steering wheel, brake pedal and accelerator. The passenger is coming along for the ride. They do not have any of these things where they are sitting. We need to ask ourselves what pieces of the financial statements are driving or causing the past financial performance of a firm. We do this by systematically and efficiently breaking down the financial statements into smaller bits to help us focus on some or other aspect of the business. If the financial statements overall show the business has been performing well, what part of the financial statements has been causing it? What is being caused by high gearing? Was it being caused by high gearing, high profit margins in a product line, or low inventory levels? But you remember that the financial statements are not the economic and business reality themselves. No aspect of the financial statements has caused the overall good performance of the business. In this sense, all aspects of the financial statements are passengers going along for the ride. The actual drivers are specific aspects of the economic and business realities of the firm that are causing those specific aspects of the financial statements to be the way they are. It is these realities we are interested in understanding, engaging with, and influencing. Once we have identified the key aspects or parts of the financial statements that are driving or causing the past financial performance of a firm, we need to ask ourselves what is causing the key aspects of the financial statements of a firm to be the way they are. What are the economic and business realities that have been causing or driving them? To gain some insights into this will require using information in addition to the financial statements, to step outside of the financial statements. We are then led to a question that is central to financial statement analysis. How are those key economic and business realities that are fundamentally causing or driving the financial performance of the firm, as shown in the financial statements, likely to change in the future? Dream about the future. The key step in financial statement analysis is to dream about the future. We need to forecast or predict a firm's future. To do this, we need to bring together everything we have done so far in a great leap of faith, based on our careful assessment of how we see the key economic and business realities of the business changing in the future. We sometimes hear the words blind faith, or people cross their fingers or touch wood and say they hope things will work out. There is no place for this in investing, nor in business. These concepts or views of faith and hope are of no use to us. Making equity investments in firms requires commitment. It requires commitment of real capital, real resources of our society into a business. To do this based on sentiment, vague ideas, or limited independent assessment is acting based on blind faith. Many costly and foolish decisions can be made this way. Many in our capital markets, including myself, can testify to that. Yet investing and business is about real faith and hope. We need to step out and take a risk, which will quite often not turn out exactly the way we expected or would have liked. After all, who knows the future? We can increase our hit rate and chances of success by using the knowledge and skills we can gain in this unit to make careful assessments of how we see the key economic and business realities that are in the driver's seat of a firm's business changing in the future. However, these assessments are only useful if we can turn them into a dollar figure. This is because equity investments in firms and economic transactions in markets more generally are conducted between people in dollars. It is through the exchange of money that we engage in equity investing. For this reason, we need to address how much we should pay for an equity interest in a firm, because that is how capital is allocated in our society. We can have real faith, hope, and confidence as we step out carefully investing our limited capital. Our unit is designed to introduce you to the good thinking and practical skills of financial statement analysis that can help us have a basis for such confidence. Conclusions. We have seen in this chapter that fundamental analysis involves us making our own assessment of the economic and business realities of a firm independently of its share price. We suggest this is worth the effort because it can help us avoid common errors many investors can make who fail to properly engage with this reality. We saw how analysing financial statement analysis is central to carrying out fundamental analysis on a firm. We saw the importance of having a framework, a conceptual map in our mind. In our unit, we will learn to look at a firm's business reality through discounted cash flow, DCF, and economic profit frameworks. The economic profit framework uses a well-established concept from economics as the basis for our view of value. Economic profit, or abnormal earnings, or residual income, is the difference between the accounting earnings of a firm and the cost of the capital a firm uses to earn that return. This is what we will be focusing on as we seek to understand the economic and business realities of a firm. We will look at a major New Zealand listed company, Ryman Healthcare, as an extended case study as we learn how to apply the discounted cash flow and economic profit frameworks to our firms. We saw there are a range of stakeholders interested in engaging with and understanding a firm's business reality. We can expect them to have diverse interests. We will focus on equity investors, typically ordinary shareholders in companies. However, the techniques we will learn about financial statement analysis are readily transferable to the interests of other stakeholders. We will focus on equity investors purely for convenience and to provide focus. We also discuss the technical skills and judgments we will need to develop in our financial statement analysis. And we saw that a background in finance or accounting can be a mixed blessing when it comes to financial statement analysis. We saw that an accounting background can make it easier to engage with a firm's financial statements, but this can encourage us to focus on the financial statements themselves rather than on a business reality. A finance background can provide us with some key insights and theories as to how finance and business can operate. But this can lead us to an overly strong reliance or confidence in what are, after all, simply finance theories, and blind us to the uncertainties and basic messiness of the real world of business. If we remember that the way to quality financial statement analysis is to learn to use the financial statements to help us better understand a firm, we will be starting off on the right foot. We need to keep this firmly in mind. In the next chapter, we will further examine how a firm adds value by taking capital from investors and using it to earn a return greater than the cost of the capital it uses. This will cause us to initially focus on a firm's strategy as well as on how well a firm's financial statements may or may not be capturing the realities of a firm. In the next chapter, we will see that we do not start financial statement analysis with the financial statements. Rather, we start with considering how well a firm is positioned in its competitive environment, that is, with its strategy. We'll also see that before we dive into analysing firms' financial statements, we need to stand back and think about whether we have reason to suspect any aspects of the financial statements may not reflect the underlying realities of the firm. Indeed, can the firm's accounts be trusted?